Hello, everyone. Welcome to From Sysadmin to Infosec. Hi, I'm Jeff McJunkin, and I have with me my co-presenter.
Hello, friends.
This is Daniel Pendolino, and let's go ahead and dive right into our topic. So we're going to talk about us a little bit because we both have the from general IT into InfoSec background. We'll talk about what IT security is in a nutshell and why the path of general IT, doesn't have to be exactly sysadmin for the record, to InfoSec is great and gives you amazing powers, how there is no normal path, so you should just embrace the path that you have. We'll also talk about forging your own destiny within IT security and have a little conclusion and some time for questions at the end.
So now it's my story. It's my path to information security. So I started out doing computer science at Rutgers and kind of hating Java, kind of not being super into the software engineering path. I love to code and I love all things technology, but just writing bits of web apps all day was just not something I was super interested in. Thankfully, after that, through a friend, I got to meet Ed Scotus and interned for him doing all kinds of weird things that let me take screenshots of SAN Sec 560 for a while, learning Netcat and SSH relays and port forwarding, that stuff that I still use daily. And that was a lot of fun. But moving on from there, I didn't want to do software engineering exactly. And that led me to kind of intro tech support, getting familiar with Tomcat web apps, unfortunately, the worst parts of the web and Java all smushed together. And I got into deploying applications and learning the tech stack. And that was a lot more interesting to me. And that led me to doing sysadmin work. I got to work for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, doing high performance computing stuff. And that was just super, super neat. And at the end of the day, I had a terminal at a Linux machine. It was a really honking big one, but it was still the same bash. And then I got a call from Ed one day asking me if I wanted to come back to CounterHack. And I said yes. And I've been super happy doing sysadmin work, doing DevOps, doing some challenge dev and a little bit of pen testing. And I've been there ever since.
Excellent. My own background, fairly similar. We like to joke that Daniel and I are the same person, just on different coasts. So I got my bachelor's computer security, information assurance, a bit of a forensic focus as far as the courseware goes. Had come from a regular IT support, so computer repair in high school, to working for my school district, to systems administration, software packaging, deploying software packages to hundreds or thousands of machines, Windows migrations, and then got into being the catch-all admin, which I really enjoyed because you don't get as much of a comprehensive view for a larger organization. Whereas a small organization, you can at some point literally replace all of the desktops, all of the laptops, all of the servers, all of the network and routing equipment. And I liked IT. I still identify as a sysadmin, but I wanted to do something beyond that. And I started being interested more and more in IT security. And then this talk happened for me right between sysadmin and my next job. My next full-time engagement was web and network penetration tester. Then I got an amazing call one day from the illustrious Ed Scotus as well. Started working for CounterHack, building things like these SANS Holiday Hack Challenge and a couple of versions of Core Net Wars Tournament/Experience. And then I was there for 5 years, got to work with the illustrious Daniel Pendolino there as well. Then went out in my own organization, Rogue Divide Information Security, do pen tests, red teaming, ransomware resilience. And by the way, I also teach for the SANS Institute, mostly the penetration testing course, the one that Daniel has troubleshot a lot of labs very thoroughly for, taken a lot of screenshots, and also authored the 2-day Metasploit Kung Fu lab.
And this is us.
Yeah.
I think this sums us up pretty nicely. We got to hang out one DerbyCon, which, we'll miss you. And we've been friends and colleagues ever since, and I hope we continue to do so.
Yep, absolutely. I think we're always scheming for how to get our various companies to work together, right? Now, kids. Yep. All right. One of the major topics of this presentation is that your sysadmin background gives you overpowered, OP, InfoSec powers, right? The average experience in the sysadmin, network admin world is having a poorly documented world. So figuring out the information, having nothing more than the account privileges to do so, or maybe to do account resets on your way, turns out that's the average pen test as well, right? And there's far more to InfoSec than just pen testing, but it's an easy thing to talk to, right?
Yeah, but seriously, I want someone to tell me if they actually find good documentation.
Oh,
out
yeah,
there in
yeah.
the wild.
I can't
Like,
prove that unicorns with good documentation don't exist, but I haven't seen any unicorns around, so I find it rather unlikely. Making remote machines do your bidding, right? Using valid credentials after you have them to make the world conform to your desire, right? Make it so. That's a really useful piece where you're talking about PS exec, or I like PDQ inventory, PDQ deploy, or parallel SSH, what I hear Daniel's use a time or two.
Oh yeah, absolutely. When we do like challenge exercises where there's a simulated red team or a real red team, after the initial exploitation, it's kind of IT administration, just kind of evil.
It turns out our Daniel was the evil one the whole time. But yes, after you've gotten that initial endpoint, it's more about like sometimes privilege escalation, but more about discovering and making your own documentation for the environment and getting the job done, which feels a lot like sysadmin worked as well. You've probably been through automating some tedious process. That is a useful power. Instead of manually interacting with 20, 30, 40, 50, or 1,000 machines by hand, automating that. Understanding that small details can really, really matter. Whether it's, oh, I forgot that I have SMB v1 enabled and therefore have a bunch of vulnerabilities to worry about, or network layer authentication for remote desktop, or SSH v1 is somehow in place, right? These subtle details really, really make important differences. Oh, I forgot to change the permissions on this service, and therefore there's a local privilege escalation on every single desktop image. This is important. You've probably also used existing binaries in creative ways to accomplish whatever your goal is, because you don't always have the best of tools to resolve your issue. In the InfoSec realm, we call this LOL BAS, living off the land, binaries and scripts, and it's a regular course of business because you blend in better to the existing systems administrators when you're using the same software that they are, just in a more nefarious way. It's the same idea, just with the evilness going on.
So why InfoSec? And I think that's the crux of why we're talking to you today. Like, what are the reasons why you want to take the kind of IT general kind of knowledge that you have and transition that into something that might feel a bit scary, even though when you really look at it, it's not as different as you might think. That curiosity, that drive, that keeps tinkering, that keeps trying to figure out how things are built and why they're done that way, that mindset really makes doing the work that much more rewarding, but also much more feasible.
Absolutely.
There's been so many times where we've had to come up with a solution to some technical hurdle on the fly, and the only reason we were able to figure it out in time is because that one time I read, something on Slashdot or Y Combinator, and I looked into it for 20 minutes, then went back to what I was doing, but it stuck in my head.
Yep. I like to joke that I don't store facts anymore. I mostly just store pointers and like, hey, I read about this once on Hacker News. Now all of my Hacker News time is billable hours. It's not quite how it works, but I think there's a lot of job satisfaction to imposing your will that helps the business across a set of systems. And in the traditional admin world, you mostly have the same set of systems over time. But if you want to scale what you've learned, imagine when you go from learning IT admin really well to applying IT admin again at a different organization. And there's so much you can apply so very quickly, right? What would normally be like a year-long project, you're like, give me 3 weeks and stop bothering me, and I will bring us up to speed so very quickly. You can do that in the consulting realm as well, and not to change employers for that. There's more to InfoSec than just consulting, but you can apply your knowledge very quickly and help more organizations. So more job satisfaction as well.
Yeah, and that community around kind of learning and exploring is just one of the best parts of information security.
Oh, absolutely.
And just maybe getting a coffee or some other drink with fellow colleagues and friends that much more interesting, because it's like, oh, what have you been working on? It's just such a
what
great
exciting new thing are you working on that nobody else in this industry has at least talked about publicly, and it's all at your fingertips because all it takes is working on one little lab, and investigating a little bit further. Sean Metcalf is amazing for Active Directory security, and Sean Metcalf's lab environment, no offense to him, is not that many machines. It doesn't take that long to put together Active Directory with a few forks and a few trusts and figure out a lot of edge cases that way. Again, no disrespect, but I think a lot of people would be underwhelmed by the breadth of labs because you can answer a lot of very interesting questions from life in relatively small lab environments, but don't test in production, right? Your first time using a tool or some exploit should not be somebody else's production environment. Oh, go ahead. Adding Infosec flavor to your own position. This slide is all about how do you transition without making that scary leap? Because I think there's two major kind of gotchas before people make the jump into Infosec. And one is, should I jump? Is it worth going over there? And two, that looks like a big scary jump. So we talked about like why it could be useful to you. Job satisfaction, always be learning, right? A good community. We have our problems, don't get me wrong, but a good community to work with. But now let's talk about the baby steps. So it's not just one big terrifying leap into the unknown. You can add Infosec flavor to what you already do. If you work in desktop world, auditing the standard desktop image or making a standard desktop image.
Yes,
and
please.
There's an applicable word for this. Daniel, what's the word for standardization of builds?
I don't know, maybe Packer.
Oh, Packer all the Packer.
Anytime Jeff or I can get to automate an image via Packer, we take it. And
yeah, absolutely.
I don't feel bad at all.
No. Start from ISO, result in IT-ready image, good to go, is pretty awesome with all the packages you need, all the customization, and I don't know, maybe some like Puppet or
Ansible.
Python-based. What's that? Ansible along the way. I just do stupid bash shells because if it gets the job done, it still makes me feel better. Anyway, so adding Infosec flavor to your own position, building and testing labs, getting work permission to do so, saying, hey boss, I just heard about this big breach from someone else in our industry. And it says that the major part of their flaw was this ramification. It was that they had not they thought they'd patch, but there were some boxes that fell out of patching. So let me research some of those questions about what boxes are falling out of patching. And I want to do 2 hours every Thursday to answer these list of questions. That's really easy to say yes to. You've stacked the deck in your favor, and now you've justified Infosec learning in your current position.
And it's super valuable, both yourself and to your current organization. That's a win-win.
Win-wins are the best, right?
Yeah.
Like consulting, my first penetration test was for my college, where I knew a couple people that worked in IT there, and I said, hi, I like IT security. Can I pretty please do a pen test and not get sued and give you a report at the end so you can improve? And the answer was yes, right? Made it a little easier to say yes to that one, and it got me my start. That's not wrong by any means. Or friends in Infosec, Daniel mentioned the coffee or virtual coffee or some beverage, but I think there's a danger of limiting yourself, gatekeeping yourself. Say, I'm not 100% ready yet. You will never be 100% ready for any major jump or leap ever. But between resume workshops, mock interviews, and real interviews, all three of which give you valuable feedback, you can iterate and improve. Because what's the phrase? Perfect is the enemy of good. And as I collect, say, perfect is the enemy of better. Focus on being better and improving and learning, but you could probably make that jump earlier than you think you can. And I love the graphic for imposter syndrome here. We commonly think that what I know is a strict subset. Somebody else knows way, way more. But your background is a unique set of experiences, a unique set of hard-won pieces of knowledge. Nobody has all of the knowledge you do, and vice versa. You have no more.
Super smart people. I work with some super smart people, and it's amazing the stuff that they teach me, but also the stuff that I thought was, oh, they must know this already, and maybe not. You don't know.
Yep. When I hear of like the illustrious Mick Douglas saying, "Oh, I built my own desktop in the cloud with Amazon EC2. It took me a few hours. I learned more about guacamole, and then I found that Amazon Workspaces exist. They just have another product for this." And he may have flipped a desk at that moment, right? Nobody's knowledge is a strict superset of another, right? And when we tweeted about this upcoming talk, there was a lot of community response.
Yeah, exactly. Like I was floored when Jeff tweeted and all of these amazing folks, Derek Rook, Joff, Spudkin, John Gorenflow, Brian, like all of these awesome people echoed the experiences that, we have bits of. Like it's not exactly the same, but there's a whole lot of commonalities.
Absolutely. And I admit I'm slightly biased. I like the offensive realm a bit more because, hey, shells are awesome and it's hard to replace that rush of interpreter session 1 opened or whatever C2 of choice. But I admit some bias here. And for the record, nothing is wrong with a normal systems administration or network administration career. That's not wrong by any means, but Infosec is exciting too, and it might be the right fit for you. And look, the talk is titled Sysadmin to Infosec, but of course, QA to Infosec, or a network admin, not just sysadmin. If you have web and application development background, we need more people who aren't afraid of a compiler, who are able to answer a question in the form of code.
Hello, help desk, being on the front lines.
Yes.
Like, you now know how to talk to people and triage. Like, that's super helpful.
Yes, and identifying commonalities. Oh, this is not an exception because this is the third report of this I found this morning, right? Teasing apart your mental model of an organization through limited information is how help desk works. And that's a pretty darn useful piece of information. Of course, even database administration, there's a lot more to database world than take the user input raw and toss it into a database query raw. There's a lot more to security you can do. Parameterized queries have been a thing for a while. And I do like I admit some bias here. Infosec is this combination of some body of knowledge plus the adversarial mindset. So QA, you all know where the bodies are buried on average. That's a pretty important skill. And we had so much of a response that we had to have some more tweets in here as well. With George Orchilas, I recognize every name on this list, right? Andrew Krug, James LV, because nobody can pronounce his last name. Eric Conrad, curriculum lead over at SANS. Rich Farfarik, amazing, amazing people here, right? If you want to be in this field, welcome, you belong, you are one of us. There's enough gatekeeping going on here. Some people say, oh, you can't go straight into IT security. That's just wrong. You need to serve your time in the field first. No, there are some advantages, right? Some overpowered experience that you can get in sysadmin realm or network admin or many others, but it's not wrong. And I know some great folk that went just into IT security directly.
Yeah, there are absolutely no wrong paths. There's just less common ones and maybe less convenient ones. And that leads to just the fact that all of those different paths end up in very varied places because there's within information security, there's a ton of specializations that kind of line up nicely with places you can come from, like network, like, being a network admin, doing network stacks and sysadmin work involving packets and stuff leads really nicely to doing network pen tests. I really respect anyone that can do like Active Directory. It's mind-boggling to me sometimes what you can and can't do.
Yeah.
And there's
essentially everything that you know and understand, you no longer fear and you no longer think is impressive, but every single body of knowledge is scary and impressive to somebody else. And that's great. That means that your set of knowledge is absolutely applicable and gives people will fear and respect you for it. Don't encourage the fear, but.
Yep. DevOps is near and dear to my heart. Incident response can be just this mismatch of everything. And yeah, it can be super stressful, but if you don't want to have to pick that, there's an option for that too.
Yep. Now it's okay to dive into one topic and specialize there. I'm thinking of like Ian Coldwater. They're an amazing, amazing information security professional, and they have laser focused on Kubernetes. And they should probably also be verified on Twitter, by the way, but we only have time for so much here, right? It's okay to laser focus specialize, and it's okay to a little bit more ADHD style, want to do all the things all the time, right? Incident response, that huge mashup from offensive mindset. What would the attacker do here, to forensics at scale remotely, right? Triaging, the sysadmin, network admin response, and then even some of pen testing to check if your mitigations are working properly. Incident response is pretty awesome. The downside is, of course, the sometimes living out of a hotel or having your go bag, and like there are some downsides as well, absolutely. But there is no normal path to IT security.
Nope, we're all weird.
We're all weird. Come be weird with us, right? Probably the most common path is a general IT admin realm into information security. But there are many paths, and yeah, the long tail, as they say, like the lots of exceptions, the lots of weird paths, is probably the majority of people in IT security. There is no normal path, and if you want to be here, we absolutely welcome you. We need more inclusion. We need more diversity. We need more than 2 more white guys giving a presentation, right? We need more backgrounds as well. If you're excited to learn, if you want to help others, if you want to apply your knowledge with great job satisfaction, Infosec is probably a great fit for you. And as it turns out, there's a huge need, and that does reflect in potential for some great pay and great job security.
Yeah, which is just really nice to have.
Yeah, and even more than just job security, career security. I don't expect myself or Daniel to get laid off anytime soon, but honestly, if we do, we won't be unemployed for long. And that's a really nice thing to be able to sit down in the night and be comfortable with, that you know that you're desired in the industry. If you don't feel you're getting the proper level of respect where you are and you have some knowledge, excited to learn, excited to share with others, Infosec will be great for you. We need more people. Please come join us.
Yeah, being a productive member of the community is just super rewarding.
Absolutely. We have time for questions. We'll both be in the Discord hanging out. We have lots of other resources, whether it's on building your own lab.
Below.
Go ahead.
I said we have some links below, like your mock interview link, and apparently Sans does a holiday hack challenge every year, and I get to help make that happen, and it's a ton of fun, and we'd love to see you there.
Absolutely. I mean, you can also spend some time hanging out with others inside a video game and chatting and solving problems together in December. That makes for a pretty awesome December. I know some organizations will like block off IT security for a week and say, no, we're going to together submit our response. And it's hard to beat that camaraderie, which is amazing. These slides are online, by the way, bit.ly/sysadmin2infosec, and we'll be around for any questions inside of Discord. But let's go ahead and wrap things up. Thank you so much for joining this talk, and have a wonderful day, afternoon, evening, morning, whenever you saw this presentation.
Yep, and we work for places. They do pen tests. Reach out if you want. We'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely. And there's our advertising for the day. We're good. Thank you very much for joining. Cheers, everyone.
Bye.